Hello. Welcome and thank you all for joining us tonight for a very special Marjorie's Fund event. It's a programmatic update focusing on our work this year throughout Thriving and how we've supported our diabetes community throughout the year of COVID and going on into the new year. So tonight we are going to cover a little bit about Marjorie's Fund. For those of us who are new to the organization, we welcome and thank you for being a part of our event tonight. Of course, we're going to cover the year we've just been through and how we've focused on moving past the surviving status of 2020 into an onward and forward look of our 2021 programmatic work. Some new and exciting programs coming to you tonight. And again, sharing the impact of your work, influencing and helping our community around the globe. Later on, we'll open it up to a little Q&A directly with our co-founders, Jason and Sandy, and we'll get to hear from you. So get your comments ready for the comment box, and please join us in this interactive discussion tonight. On the call, you'll soon be seeing Jason and Sandy, Jason Baker and Sandhya Narayanan of the organization, the co-founders, and also a special guest coming from Rwanda, if all connection is well, joining us live on the call later tonight, Lorian Sibumana, and myself, Peter Rossetti, the communications director.
So hello, everyone. We're so delighted to have you here with us this evening. I hope you all are safe and healthy. As Peter mentioned, many of you are so familiar to us and have been with Marjorie's Fund over the last few years. Some of you are just learning about us. So for your benefit, our mission is to empower type 1 diabetes adolescents and adults living in poverty to not only survive, but to effectively manage their diabetes. So we do that with 3 program areas of focus, right? We accomplish our mission with healthcare access, diabetes education, and economic empowerment. We make sure to enhance direct diabetes care, diabetes self-management education, subsidize testing and treatment supplies. We also provide education critically needed for both the patients and for the healthcare community at large, as well as for their family and the community, so that we can enhance psychosocial support as well. Last but not the least, we ensure that we have economic empowerment programs with vocational training and income generation, so that there is sustainable access to diabetes treatment, healthcare, and everything that is needed to survive with this chronic condition. We cannot do anything that we do or accomplish without collaboration and partnership. We collaborate with our local diabetes organizations, whether it's in Uganda with the Diabetes Consultation Association, or in Rwanda with our Rwanda Diabetes Association, and then local healthcare providers and partners in each of the countries that we support. As well as we partner with all nonprofits around the world, as well as in the US, who support our work in multiple ways. And last but not least, again, we cannot do this work without our donors, you all consistently being there for us, volunteers, and of course, our working board. And we've stayed focused on our mission even during this year, this past year and a half, if you will, almost. Wouldn't you say, Jason, through all the challenges?
I would say it's been a challenging year, but I'd like to think that we rose to the occasion. Sandy, it's wonderful to see you.
Oh, thank you. Welcome.
And you know, to our listeners, our viewers, we sure hope to be able to do this in person at some point in the future. You know, I think that we are happy to share this program tonight, but let us hope next year we can be live in person.
Absolutely.
So, as Sandy was mentioning, we really rose to the occasion, I think, this year with our work. And when we look back at COVID and how it has affected us as an organization and our beneficiaries, we think of it in kind of two halves. The beginning was literally about surviving, but very quickly we pivoted into our main focus as an organization, which is thriving. And we want to talk a little bit about how we had to deal with both of those components. Sadly, this was a tough year for a lot of people, and a lot of us lost loved ones. One of the folks that we know and we loved dearly who passed from COVID was our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Francois Guichoma. He was the founder of one of our partner organizations, the Rwandan Diabetes Association, and he passed this year. He leaves a legacy and has touched hundreds, if not thousands, of lives of people living with type 1 and really changed the global stage for type 1 diabetes management in the developing world. So Francois, hats off to you. We miss you. So in the beginning of COVID, and we talked a bit about this last year when we did our presentation, we really had to pivot our work very quickly due to the lockdowns which occurred, which also included lockdown of our center. Our clinic had to close in the beginning of COVID. Our beneficiaries lost their jobs. There was rampant food insecurity. And in addition to all of this, we suffered a flood in the early months of COVID, heavily damaging our diabetes center. And you may remember, some of you on the call, that we did a fundraising campaign to help to rebuild our center, and we're happy to say that it's completely rebuilt with your assistance. But we are moving beyond this point of just surviving and, again, quickly pivoting into the thriving. And I have to say, before going on, you'll notice that there is a logo at the bottom right of your screen. It's a bit of a hybrid, we say, of diabetes, glucose testing, and our coronavirus viral particle. And it was a designed by our own Peter Rossetti, which actually won a design award this past year. So I just wanted to give some props to our communications director, Peter Rossetti, for coming up with that design, which is pretty powerful in terms of its combination of diabetes and COVID, which we all know has unfortunately been in many cases, deadly combination. But again, pivoting back to thriving, we, throughout the pandemic, were able to rise to the occasion and still make sure that our beneficiaries obtained enough glucose testing supplies and insulin. And we did this in really two ways. One of the ways was to continue our work by local purchase of these supplies. And it was harder. Admittedly, it was harder, but our partners on the ground made it happen. And our partners internationally also helped us and helped our beneficiaries tremendously. And we wanted to make sure that we gave a shout out to our partner, Insulin for Life USA, which has been heavily involved also with helping our beneficiaries to get insulin. Additionally, we quickly pivoted. As soon as we could, we reopened our clinic, and this occurred just this past July. And since it's reopened, we've done it in a fashion that's safe. We've had social distancing. We've had all the appropriate PPE for staff and sanitation measures and masking for all of the patients who have come through. We also realized that we wanted the clinic to grow, and we wanted the patient experience to be enhanced, their care to be enhanced. So we actually have now changed the clinic to run twice weekly instead of once weekly. And we've also expanded the number of healthcare providers who are now able to see patients in a given clinic day. And as Sandy mentioned, another one of our very important components, which we think really makes us distinct as an organization, is our vocational training and income generation projects, all in the guise of economically empowering our patients. So this is a picture of our newest class of vocational training students in Rwanda, taken a few months ago as they were at the clinic awaiting their first hemoglobin A1C tests. But they are all doing well, and you'll hear from Lorian later with the, as mentioned, connection permitting, more about how these beneficiaries in Rwanda are doing. Additionally, COVID did not slow us down in terms of our work with growing this extremely important cash crop of vanilla on our farm in Uganda. And you may say, what in the world? They're working with crops and diabetes. How does that come into play? Again, remember, this is something that brings income directly back to patients, and that money is used for those patients to care for themselves. So COVID did not slow us down on that project. The farm expanded, fencing was put around it to, again, better keep the elephants out. And we now have security measures around the area as well to protect the burgeoning crop. And you may remember this face, Panina. She is, again, one of our honorees from our gala this past year. She is a Ugandan who has happily done well during the COVID pandemic, is doing just fine, and she's been making more art now is making art to order. So if any of you are interested in obtaining any of her statues, many of which depict scenes in living with diabetes, Panina is your person. And you can go to our website to find out more. And we partner with this endeavor, the proceeds of which go directly back to Panina and her other colleagues in Uganda affiliated with our education center there. We partner in this initiative with Diabetic, which is a California-based company that is specifically dealing with diabetes supply distribution. And they have partnered with us in getting these products made by our partners in Uganda possible for you to receive. So you can go to their website and find out more how to order these items as well. And they've also worked with us in creating a wonderful new video about our organization, which you can check out on our website or the link below. But we're very happy to continue to have the partnership of Diabetic and certainly the work of all of our beneficiaries working within that partnership.
So we're going to switch to actually hearing from our counterparts in the field. First up, we're going to have Etienne Uwingabare, who is a nurse and the clinical coordinator from the Rwanda Diabetes Association. And he's going to let us know what it's like for what the situation is with COVID right now in Rwanda and what is happening there. Oops.
I'm Uwingabare Etienne, Director of Rwanda Diabetes Association and Nurse Diabetes Educator. During COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the period of lockdown, people living with diabetes, especially type 1, have experienced many problems such as loss of job, not moving from one area to another. So to get means of transport was a challenge. Some of them have stopped to take insulin because of food insecurity. Others, they didn't get the means of transport for insulin supplying. In collaboration with our partners, including Marjorie's Fund, we tried to find some solutions. Marjorie's Fund has contributed to help 50 young adults living with type 1 diabetes by providing a package for food and the means of transport to go at this district hospital for getting the insulin. This contribution has reduced the risk to get diabetes complication. I would take this opportunity to address my thanks to the Marjorie's Fund team, which help us to improve the well-being of young people living with diabetes. And I hope we'll continue to collaborate to save many people. Thank you.
That is very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, Sandy, Etienne is a guy who we have known for years, and he worked alongside Francois Guichoma and is one of the main players at the Rwanda Diabetes Association and one of the clinical leaders there. In fact, the nurse and clinical coordinator. And he is one of our main partners on the Rwanda side. So it just really bespeaks what they're suffering through right now. And I think it's really eye-opening, don't you think, Sandy, that as we sit here in many parts of the world, certainly, Sandy and I are in New York City right now, and, everybody's taking off their masks and feeling safer. But there's a lot of parts of the world where that's just not the case, right?
Right, absolutely. And I think, we can really speak to that. We're going to hear a little bit from India as well. And I'm going to talk to Lorian Sibomana, who's our Rwanda program coordinator. And we had honored him a couple of years ago, I think, at one of our galas, because he does so much work as well. And he has gone actually from Pittsburgh to Rwanda, taking his life in his hands, traveling, but because this cause is so important to him and he's so passionate about the people, about all of the people living with type 1 diabetes there, and in really dire circumstances, and things are just, COVID didn't cause any of these problems, but it just
exacerbated them.
Exacerbated to such a large extent. So I'm going to try to see if we can talk to Lorian, but I think maybe that perhaps he is live in Rwanda around 11 o'clock or later.
Yeah, and Sandy, I actually just got word that I actually think that his internet connection is bad. And
Okay.
Honestly, for our listeners, this is a challenge for us as an organization, really staying in touch with our beneficiaries. We make it happen, but it takes probably about 2 to 3 times as long as you would otherwise normally think, because frequently the internet connections are disrupted and the like. And this bespeaks why part of it's important to actually go physically to meet with people. And as Sandy mentioned, Lorian is our Rwanda project coordinator, and this would be his second trip during the pandemic over to Rwanda. And Lorian's leaving his family behind, and not even volcanoes stopped that guy. His flight out last week was canceled because of a volcanic eruption, for God's sake. So, Lorian, hats off to you. I know we saw you briefly before the presentation started, and I know the connection is bad. Lorian had, though, Sandy sent us some updates about what he has noticed so far after having been on the ground in Rwanda for the last 4 days, having visited many of our beneficiaries. And he's talking about a lot of stuff that he's seeing. He's seeing, continued issues with getting enough strips, continued issues with getting enough insulin, but he's also seeing a lot of hope. I was really struck that these beneficiaries, whom we've supported through vocational training programs, he's finding that a lot of them actually are employed. Mm-hmm. Because of the skill sets that they learn through those programs. And that's just fantastic, and we know there's more to do and there are extra challenges because of COVID. But I mean, to know that they're actually employed and have some element of income is fantastic. So.
And as Lorian mentioned, some of you, if you are not actually just listening to us and not seeing our presentation, he wrote us and said, we together with at Marjorie's Fund have taught people in Rwanda how to fish, if you will, rather than just sort of giving them supplies. But that's what vocational training does, and the economic empowerment program itself is intended to do, is to help people eventually be able to manage this condition as they go forward in life. And the other beautiful thing, and we've seen this when we've gone, whether to Rwanda or Uganda, is how much there is a feeling of cooperation and collaboration and support that they give each other. Yep. And by bringing them together, whether it is to our diabetes center in Uganda, or whether we've established this cooperative with the tailoring initiative that we had, they've learned to communicate to each other and just have that psychosocial support. But in addition, they are doing, they're putting together a self-help savings loan program. Whatever they make, they also contribute to the community. And again, I've mentioned this before, whether it was at the gala or at other program updates, but that is something that just, melts my heart and makes me feel so good, and to know that we've brought them together and that they have the support and they give each other that, and now they're employed making monthly contributions to this cooperative and have a way to go forward.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lorian is continuing follow-up of all of our, in the past 2 years, we've had 21 graduates in Rwanda from our vocational training programs. And he's following up on those graduates for how well they're doing and gives us reporting back. And just to know that many of them are actually doing well from better than they were from the economic standpoint, but we still have a lot to work to do yet, Sandy. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, this is, what we do. We make a difference. We always, always, always are aiming to expand our reach and expand our impact. So because the need is so great. So that's, we're starting, we're small, we're a grassroots organization, but with all of the support and collaboration we have, we pack a punch and we want to go.
Absolutely. And Lorian, I think I see that Lorian is actually trying to join. I'm not sure. Lorian, are you able to hear us? Your ears must be ringing at least. Yeah, I think unfortunately.
Okay.
Well, Lorian, just know that you're here in spirit, and we look forward to hearing more reports. And stay safe, our friend. And please give our best to all of our friends in Rwanda and all of our friends at the Rwanda Diabetes Association and colleagues at the Rwandan Biomedical Center and Ministry of Health. Yeah. Without all of a collaboration of whom none of any of this work would be possible. So again, Lorian, thank you for going over there as an emissary of Marjorie's Fund. Okay.
And now we turn our attention to another part of the globe. This is near and dear to me. As many of you know, India is being devastated with this second wave of the coronavirus pandemic, and of course, as we are always concerned at Marjorie's Fund to what any calamity in whatever way impacts people living with type 1 diabetes, especially in some of these really remote and resource poor settings. So we've reconnected with one of our partners from the field, Dr. Nihal Thomas, who's the professor and head of the Department of Endocrinology, Diabetes and Metabolism at the Christian Medical College in Vellore in India. It's a part of the southeastern state of India, Tamil Nadu, bordering on another state. And they provide so much support to people with type 1 diabetes. I've even spent some time there working with our young patients. And I want to, just have Nihal tell you in his own words what the situation is like and what some of the challenges are there in India right now.
Good day to all of you. I would like to thank Dr. Jason and the other stakeholders who have given me this opportunity to verbalize a few notions. We are at the current point of time and space straddling on the precipice of a global calamity. With COVID sweeping the world today, we are in the throes of multiple crises that have devastated those with afflictions and illnesses. At the Christian Medical College, Vellore in South India, where I work along with our team of healthcare givers, we have one such analogous cataclysm. While being privileged to care for more than 200 adolescents and young adults with type 1 diabetes, it is unfortunate that these young individuals have had their livelihood and economic support cleaved with unanticipated disdain by this raging pandemic. A proportion of these young people who have lost not only their physical autonomy, but have been physically deprived of their parents, brothers, and sisters. The colossal psychological trauma that has impacted our clients with type 1 diabetes is indeed rather incomprehensible.
Yes, and Jason, as you know, I mean, I grew up not far from Vellore, and I just know, and even personally, last year I've heard from my family, and in fact even lost my mother to COVID, and what the situation was there has just been very, very heartbreaking. And I'm so glad that we are reconnecting with Nihal and the Vellore program. And I just would love for you to talk a little bit more about how we're using this as our stepping point for some of the programs we're doing. So COVID has made us refocus on some of our programs, but has also given us the platform to initiate some new programs.
Absolutely. And Sandy, I mean, both of us, adore Nihal, and certainly this region is near and dear and has a long storied history with Marjorie's Fund. The college in which Nihal works was actually founded by the first female graduate of Cornell, the institution that I work for now. Yeah. And so there's a lot of history here. And, while it is actually a historically pretty resourced institution, meaning that it's pretty well supported and is very well organized and is a diabetes center to be admired in the region and really around the world, COVID still threw it for a loop. And there are these people who are coming up short with their abilities. And the reason why they're coming up short with their ability to obtain insulin and strips is because of the economic downturn and the unemployment that has ensued. And so there are just layers upon layers of issues. So what do we do as an organization? Well, we like to respond to the needs that are being expressed to us through our partners. And so we wanted to mention a few of our programs in progress as we look toward 2021 and beyond in terms of where we want to go as an organization and what other types of programs we want to participate in. So Nihal helped to open our eyes again to some of the issues in his hospital. And so we have partnered with CMC with a insulin and healthcare access project for 65 type 1 diabetes patients. So we're helping them with transportation to their diabetes clinics, and we're also helping with the cost of obtaining their insulin, their syringes, and their glucose testing supplies. We're very excited about this, and a year and a half, 2 years ago, we didn't really think that there was as much of a need, but there is such a need, and COVID just brought it to the forefront. And we are happy for this new partnership, or this resurgence of this partnership. We're also talking with our partners there about starting a diabetes foot care program. This is a region of the world that is really famed for leprosy and the treatment of leprosy. So as part of this, the center has become a center of excellence when it comes to dealing with foot issues, post-amputation foot issues, prosthetic foot issues, and that comes into play with diabetes as well. And so they are experts with foot care, and they have also approached us about considering developing a foot care project. So more to come on this, but we are, as Sandy mentioned, excited to be again working with CMC. We are also really excited to talk about a new partnership that we have with the Sandhya Narayanan Foundation, which is a fantastic organization which does work in our region in Uganda, and it helps type 1 diabetes patients in a multitude of ways. But we have partnered with that organization in developing a vocational training program in a different region of Uganda in which we work. So we're expanding our geographical footprint, and we're partnering with a fantastic program identified by SNF at the local YMCA, which is a 2-year vocational training program, which has existed for years. And now we are going to be plugging in our initial class, 5 people living with type 1 diabetes into the program. Again, it will be a 2-year program, also including healthcare access for these beneficiaries to ensure they get enough strips, insulin, testing supplies, and healthcare during the duration and beyond. Again, the idea of this vocational training piece for us is, as Sandy mentioned earlier, teaching them how to fish, not just giving the fish, because this is a sustainable way for people to really learn, to grow, to thrive while living with type 1. And again, we're extremely excited about this new partnership.
Absolutely.
Another thing that we've realized is we have to expand what we're already doing. So we are so excited about a new eye clinic that started at our Marjorie's Fund Diabetes Education Center in Uganda. Previously, we were more so focused on dealing with blood sugar management, blood pressure management, some of the basics as it relates to diabetes care. And as you can imagine, we are seeing people come in with complications, and we are fearing that there are other complications that we are not able to yet identify. So our partners on the ground in Uganda rose to the occasion and identified an eye expert who is now screening all of our patients at the Diabetes Education Center. And so we have a new eye clinic that is twinned to our diabetes medical care clinic. And as a result of this, of course, we are unfortunately finding that many people do have complications, but we are supporting those people in obtaining treatment for their diabetic eye disease, their diabetic retinopathy, which in many cases we are finding in these patients. So we're not only diagnosing, but we're helping to identify and fund the ability for them to actually get treatment. Because if they can't see, they can't work, they can't care for themselves. So this is a very basic need and an extremely important need. And we're very grateful to our partners in Kasese for making this happen.
Absolutely. And, you know, Jason, all of our programs, as I started out by saying, we work with collaboration, partnership, and support. And so our impact, our outreach is all made possible by what we actually managed to raise in terms of funds. And in the past year and a half alone, we have provided over $200,000 worth of programmatic support. And while that may seem like a small number, given some of the larger programs, just look at the numbers. 400 patients were able to obtain diabetes treatment and testing supplies during this year and a half. 375 people living with diabetes have healthcare access. 200 people living with diabetes have overcome food insecurity. Over 200 screened already for retinopathy. And this clinic has only been held this year, and we've already managed to go ahead and screen over 200 people. And with our diabetes vocational training programs, there have been 20 people that we've supported through COVID and 21 and the first half of this year. So while we had to make some adjustments in terms of what we were doing with our programs, we really pivoted and ensured that we've continued to make an impact in the lives of people. And so when I say we, I mean the support that you have given, board, volunteers, our donors, all of you. That is what, that support is what has made us have this impact. But we want to do more, as we mentioned, right, Jason? We're not satisfied because there is such a great need, and it is so possible to do more. And so in order to do this and reach impact, and as I said, we're a working board, most of us are doing all of this voluntarily. We have been fortunate to have the ability to bring on board a program coordinator. So we now have Diana Malkin with impressive credentials here. She has a PhD, is an MPH. She's a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and education specialist, and has actually been affiliated with the organization for many years. Back in 2016, she was very instrumental in helping us create the curriculum and help open the Marjorie's Fund Diabetes Education Center. And she's even since then gone back to Uganda for about a week or so and given us a report, and that actually helped us in terms of the training we provided for some of our healthcare providers. So welcome on board, Diana. We're looking forward to this, so to your help and support. So Jason and I can just kind of sit back and relax, right, Jason?
Oh, yes. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. I think you and I are too darn passionate about this cause, but I tell you what, just like you said, Sandy, you know, like the good thing is we're growing as an organization and we are really expanding our work, and that work gets complicated. I mean, look, there is no quick fix to diabetes, right? This is a lifelong, at least right now, a lifelong condition. We can't just go in, put a Band-Aid on something and depart. We're in this for the long run, and all of our programs have layers of complexity to them for that reason. So we want to get this right, and we're excited to have Diana join us. So Diana, hopefully you can put up with us. We're a fun crew and a fun family, but welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Jason, you want to just go over a little bit of what it costs us to do this program? Why we talked about the lives.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I think that we wanted to try to give you as specific of numbers, so you just can kind of have a sense as to what it is that we're doing and how we are supporting. So, for example, things that we do to empower people living with type 1 diabetes to thrive includes providing, ensuring that they have the right type of medical support, the right type of medical experts that they can have to help them in managing their diabetes. And so in Kasese at our clinic, it's roughly $4,500 for the support for 1 year of one of our nurses. And these are 104 clinic sessions, okay? You might think that that's a large amount, but these are many times 6 to 7 hour clinic sessions. So you do the math with how much they would actually be earning per hour. But the great thing is they're teaching each other, they're expanding the patient level of education. So they're caring for patients, they're doing direct patient education. It is a very, very busy clinic, but that's what it costs for 1 year for our essential nurses to be at the clinic. When it comes to vocational training, and again, this list is by no means inclusive, right? But for $2,500 per person per year, that is the cost of that new program we have with the Sandhya Narayanan Foundation. And again, that is supporting the 2-year vocational training program and medical access project in Kampala, Uganda, that YMCA program I spoke of earlier. So for $2,500 per person per year, that's the cost for that program. Again, a 2-year program that these people, we hope, are going to come out of with a skill set that they can thrive with. We talked about our eye clinic, right, Sandy? So for $350, that's the cost for screening and then treating a person for retinopathy at our clinic. So they're screened at our clinic, and then they go to a nearby town whereby we have identified a retinopathy center that they can actually get treatment. And our partners on the ground negotiated that cost down, and it is kind of an amazing feat that for that amount somebody can actually get treated for retinopathy. So that's the cost for treating one person for retinopathy. Feeding, right? How expensive, Sandy, has food been? I had no idea, right? So much of our resources in the past during the COVID years have had to be allocated toward food. We hadn't traditionally had to do that, but for $150 a month in Uganda, 5 type 1 diabetes patients can have enough food to survive on. And so that's the cost in Uganda. It's not dissimilar in our other regions as well, but this kind of gives you a picture that food is not as cheap. So as you might think, it's a little over $1 a day, which may not seem like a heck of a lot to you, but it is a fortune for people who are living on the ground there. So this is transformative for lives. $60 a month for supporting one person with our India program. That's the insulin strip, insulin access program, and transportation to medical clinic program. So that's the cost of that particular program, $60 per person per month for all of that. And again, that's with partnership with Nihal and his colleagues at CMC. And finally, an example of another bucket, just to kind of conceptualize this for everybody on this webinar, is that for $25 a month per person, one of our beneficiaries with diabetes living in Kasese obtains enough insulin, enough strips, enough syringes, as well as hand sanitizer to last them for a month for self-care. So that's the cost of caring for one person at our program in Kasese. And we currently have about 353 people who are going and are at our center in Kasese.
Right.
But again, this is possible, all of these programs, because these costs have been met by you guys.
Right.
And I see that already a lot of you have responded to what we're talking about by giving donations. I mean, I want to give a shout out to Heidi and Adam who donated. I want to give a shout out to our board member Samantha who just donated. Multitude of people. Thank you for listening and for responding. This isn't Sandy and I, right? This isn't for overhead of the organization. This is what it takes for us to do what it is we need to do.
Right. And we post this money to our beneficiaries, right?
Yeah, 100%. And Sandy, right, any amount is welcome, right? Like we have buckets because we want to conceptualize it for people, but any amount makes a difference for us. And, we would be remiss, of course, if we didn't mention ways that you could get us those resources to support the programs that we're talking about. You can text GIVE to the phone number you see on the screen. You can go to our website and donate. And you can also send a donation amount or mail a donation amount to us, and our address is on the website. So, again, any amount makes a world of difference for us.
And of course, Jason, we will have a gala, which will mean you and me talking a little bit less. We'll have a silent auction and do something fun, maybe even have a performance. We're planning it out now. So please, everyone, save the date. We were going to do it virtually again this year. Even though things are opening up, we just want to be cautious and get back to being in person next year when we know that everybody is feeling safe, and hopefully we can say, yeah, pandemic over, we beat this. So for now, we're going to do it virtually, and we have a lot of opportunities for you to give for the gala, but also join us with the host committee, any sponsorship opportunities that you can think of with your companies, and in terms of what you can do to help us put together this gala. And if you have auction items that you can donate, I think people are itching to get away and travel and go places. So, think of things that you can help with.
Absolutely. We'll have lots of fun items, right, Sandy? And again, we want so desperately to do these things live. We had to make a calculation as an organization what made most sense. And hey, we are happily moving in the right direction in our neck of the woods when it comes to safety. But as Sandy mentioned, this is the plan as of now is to have this as a virtual event, but we're going to make it fun. And Sandy, you've already alluded to this, but this is one of the largest supporters of our programs over the course of the entire year. So a lot more to come on this.
Right. And we've had some large, donations come in already this year. And we certainly, as you've seen, we've got tremendous need for the programs that we want to implement. So we hope you'll join us, have some fun, and be generous. So, but I want to give us some time, Jason. I want to give our participants, all those who've attended today, some time to maybe ask us some questions. If you can, I think you can type your questions in the comment box. Peter is actually, if you go to the event page, I guess there's a spot where you can do that. And also on Facebook Live, you can type in any questions. And we have someone, Jason, are you able to read them out? Or
Yeah, and please keep them coming. We've had a couple of questions come in, and one of them is actually a common one, Sandy, that we get a lot, and that is, why do you guys focus on the age group that you focus with? We focus on older adolescents and adults, right?
Absolutely.
So why do we focus on that age group as opposed to, for example, children?
Right. And, of course, with type 1 diabetes, most people think it is only children that get afflicted. But in fact, more and more, we're seeing that the incidence is rising with older adults and, even older adolescents, not even the younger ones. And mostly the reason we focus on that age group is because a lot of the programs around the world that support people with type 1 diabetes with insulin or strips, etc., have an age limit. So people who are, after age 26 are left sort of somewhat hanging, if you will. And we really understood the need that we have for those folks to have continuity of care beyond that age. And so we initially started with really only supporting folks who were sort of aging out of programs, whether it was whatever programs that around the world support people with insulin and strips, et cetera. And we also wanted to focus on education and economic empowerment and all of those things. So that's our focus on the older age group. And we do look at adolescents more as a transition, and also because in many parts of the world, adulthood is defined differently, right? And so the pressure on people, say by the time they're 17, 18, to start becoming independent, and we want to make sure that we're addressing that need as well.
Yep. And I wanted to bring up the picture that we had with the buckets of the different opportunities of sponsorship, and just to kind of this vocational training program that, for example, we're talking about, there are ages that are more appropriate for such a training program. So, youth, many times, the youngest of the young wouldn't, of course, be able to, go through a vocational training program. But so we have an age requirement for certain types of programs that we have. But, we do realize that the older type 1s are many times the forgotten type 1s. I mean, a lot of you on this webinar know that I was 24 years old when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes myself, and like, hey, I was too old for any of the childhood programs, and realized that, if I was born in a region that I didn't have what I needed to thrive with type 1, I might have been challenged and very likely may not be here right now. So we really want to step in where the need is the greatest, and that's how we have moved in the direction of older type 1s.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a few other questions. So there's a question from Samantha. How do you decide which facility gets the donated money? And sometimes, thank you, Samantha, for that question. Sometimes I think, we do have very specific fundraisers for very specific reasons. And those monies may go, like, for example, our clinic reopening project that allowed us to repair and reopen safely our medical clinic in Kasese. So there were monies that were sent directly for that particular project. The monies, for example, when you would purchase a statue made by Panina, those monies would go directly back to Panina, as well as a percentage of which goes back to the other type 1s who are within the program that she is in Kasese at our center. All of our programs have ongoing costs, however, and so these monies go toward a multitude of programs. But again, if there is anything specific that people are interested in supporting, talk to us, because any number of our programs need support. There are 20 more people we want to train in our new Kampala program, our partnership with SNF. There are 50 more people we need to be feeding in Uganda. I mean, the need is never ending. So appreciate that question. And the monies that come in support many times a multitude of programs. But if there's ever anything more specific, please let us know that you're interested in.
And also, just to add to that, one of the things we do always, Samantha, is we make sure that we have a very reliable partner on the ground. So there may be, for instance, in India, it's a huge country and there could be multiple clinics who could benefit from us, but we want to make sure that whatever support we get from each of you goes directly to beneficiaries. We work with partners that we know will make sure that those monies land up in the right hands.
Yep.
So that's another piece. We also work in areas where some of our nonprofit partners, like Life for a Child, et cetera, have already worked at. They already have a cohort of beneficiaries who may be aging out of their programs, but we know that they have worked in that area and they know that area. So we don't just sort of blindly go in somewhere where we don't have contacts or don't have the ability to understand what is really happening on the ground. So that's another way we decide which types of clinics and who we can work with when we work with on the ground.
And Sandy, as you're talking, I'm just looking in the chat box. We're getting a couple of other questions, and a couple of shout outs from Margie and Dragana, who give a shout out, Sandy, for all the wonderful work you're doing. They're not so sure about me. They say good luck working with Jason, but beyond that, but thank you, Margie and Dragana. In large part, the organization can do what it does because of people like you. Heidi has a question. And the question is, as you expand your programs, do you cut and paste elements from your successful programs, or do you have to start from scratch with each new location? I really, really appreciate that question, because we never like to think of ourselves as starting from scratch.
Right.
But we also realize we have to respond to local need. So what is particularly working or what is particularly needed in one region or one center may not actually be needed in entirety in another. So we're really big on doing a needs assessment with any of our potential new sites and projects. Mm-hmm. And as we had mentioned in the case of Vellore in India with our new project there now, really responding to what the specific need that there is in that region. But that said, one of the aspects of the organization, right, Sandy, that we're extremely proud of is our continued push to provide the economic empowerment for these patients in the realm of vocational training, for example. And so, this is something that we have duplicated in other sites, using the model of what we think worked initially in Rwanda, for example, and doing something very similar in Uganda. Right. There might be differences in the trade that was trained, but the concept of training people from a vocational standpoint has been certainly a theme that we've carried across many of our sites.
Exactly. And we remain focused on those 3 program areas of healthcare access, education, and economic empowerment. And we might have some combination of the 3, either we do all 3 in one location and maybe just focus on one. And that part is tailored to what the local need is and what a local partner may be able to collaborate with us on.
Right. So it looks like we have another question coming in. how have you been able to continue your work in the setting of not being able to travel to these particular locations?
Right.
Sandy, you want to take that one?
Yeah, lots of emails and WhatsApp messages and phone calls, Skype calls have really been our way of being in touch. We have a monthly Skype call with our Uganda program. We also have a monthly Skype call with our Rwanda coordinator, with Etienne, etc. And the fact that, like Lorian has been able to travel and go in person. He himself, we get a report back from them. But for both Jason and I, it's the two of us are just, it's really very challenging. And it's almost 2 years since we've been back, and we're raring to go, but we want to be safe. And we want to make sure that we understand what's going on on the ground before we go. But it's mostly staying in touch with all of the other ways that we are, like now, what we're doing. We have email contact, we have WhatsApp, we have monthly Skype calls. So we definitely still get our reports back from the ground as to what is going on.
And it's been amazing because we went into this pandemic with solid programs and solid partners. And so again, this just is a reminder that we're only as good as our partners. And so it's because of them that this work is going on. And we just want to give a shout out to our partners in Uganda and Rwanda and India, and thanking them for all the work. Itching to get back on site, but because of the strength of our ongoing partnerships, the work hasn't stopped, and actually, as you heard earlier in the presentation, only expanded. But I just wanted to say, thank you for joining us tonight. If there are any other questions that you have for us, you can send it to questions@marjoriesfund.org. There'll be a lot more information coming out about our upcoming gala, so please watch for those emails. We are happy to have you involved in any capacity in which you are able for the gala and also beyond. And if you're interested in getting involved in the organization, reach out to us. We need your help, and we certainly rely upon your generosity. So we thank you to all of you who have given to us over the years, and certainly who have given to us during this webinar. The generosity literally blows my mind every time. You guys are all awesome, and we're excited for the next chapter, right, Sandy? We are eyes on the prize of 2021, 2022, 2023. We want to take our programs elsewhere. We want to expand, and we want to do even better than we're doing. Without your support, without our partners on the ground support, we can't do it.
Well said. And I echo everything Jason just said. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you.
And I, again, just really just thank you. And so everybody have a wonderful night. And again, keep those questions coming.
All right.
We adore all of you.